I was doing a scan of the boat market today, like I do almost every day, and something really jumped out at me. The demand for ocean going vessels seems to be increasing, but with a market full of Beneteaus, it can be hard to single out a boat to cross the ocean on. And then, boom, the Mason 44 showed up. If you want to cross an ocean but you don't have 300 grand, your search for a boat will likely find you looking at Taiwan boats. Robert Perry designs with heavy keels and super thick glasswork and all that really awesome joinery inside that Taiwan's famous for. And while Tiana's and Choi Lee's will certainly get the job done, you could get it done on something truly beautiful, like a Hinkley, for way less than Hinkley money. A company called Pacific Asian Enterprises had the goal of getting some new boats built for American customers, taking advantage of cheaper labor rates in Asia. Now, I say cheaper labor, but that doesn't mean worse. In the 60s and 70s, the world was a different place. Life in Taiwan was a lot cheaper, people didn't make as much, and stuff wasn't very expensive. The workers did amazing woodwork and made fiberglass hulls better than just about anywhere else in the world. It was just way cheaper if you could hire them to do the work for you and then ship the product back to America. Top quality for less of a price if you could figure out the shipping and the language barrier. A couple of Americans said, let's get some boats made in Asia and sell them here, sort of a business idea, and they created the company called Pacific Asian Enterprises and called up Al Mason. Designer Al Mason was chosen as the naval architect of PAE's first project. Al was a natural choice for a lot of different reasons. First, his designs were famously beautiful. They were rugged and seaworthy, and several boats of his design had already been sold by PAE through their brokerage. Furthermore, Al Mason had worked for John Alden and Carl Alberg and a bunch of other designers in his earlier years. There was a DNA connection in design, style, and beauty to the lovely Malabar. The first PAE Mason design was a 43-foot sailboat that he had drawn. With the completed design in hand, the search began for the right Taiwan builder. Through introductions and some serendipity and some hard work, the young men at PAE learned of Ta Shing yacht building. Ta Shing, which means Big New in Chinese, was founded in 1976, and the company was just completing their state-of-the-art factory when the Mason 43 project was introduced to them. Their founder, visionary, and first president of Ta Shing, Mr. C.M. Wan, had a simple mission statement: to be the best. No expense was spared on the new facility or the equipment or the staff over in Taiwan, but two things were missing. They needed a good design and an American partner to help sell the boats. PAE and their Mason 43 project came along at the perfect moment. The Mason 43 was an immediate success and was followed by a 63, a 53, a 53 center cockpit, and a 33. PAE's last sailboat order, a Mason 44, was taken in 1997, and a few years later, all the Mason molds were destroyed, but the classic breed lives on. Of the hundreds of Masons sold, most of those are still being used by their faithful owners today, a testament to the build quality. These Mason sailboats are still cruising in all parts of the world, further illustrating the timeless ocean-crossing durability and class of yachts that were manufactured by PAE in Thailand. The 44 was just an extension of the 43 and was redesigned from it by PAE's in-house design team. Changes including modifying the rudder, lowering the cabin 2.5 inches, increasing tankage, eliminating the single quarter berth, bringing the companionway further aft, making the main sheet traveler run the full width of the cabin trunk. I found this Mason 44 for sale, which is what led me down this path, and it's still for sale right now for someone who wants an utterly gorgeous cruising boat, not just to do the Caribbean thing though, potentially to cross oceans in style and comfort. The Mason boats are heavily built with solid fiberglass hulls, balsa cord decks, and 8 longitudinal foam fiberglass stringers for added stiffness. Bulkheads are 3/4 inch mahogany, plywood bonded to the hull with foam in between to prevent hard spots, the right way to do it. The hull to deck joint on the 43, the older boat, was originally through bolted and caulked and reinforced with stainless steel flat stock. One of the designers said they later felt the stainless steel wasn't really doing anything structurally and they dropped it, in part to save the 600 pounds of weight that stainless steel was. Current boats, the 44, through bolted on 8-inch centers alternating with self-tapping screws, also 8-inch centers, and the joints laminated over with 3 layers of matte and woven roving. This plus some other changes enabled PAE to add 1,000 pounds to the ballast of the 44, where you want the weight, not up at the tow rail, when adding overall displacement makes the boat more comfortable. Fiberglass work is generally very good on these boats. One owner said his boat arrived with a slight print through of the fiberglass, but the dealer, Bass Harbor Marine in Maine, painted the hull with all grip at no charge to correct that problem. A boatyard owner who's worked on a number of Masons said, areas where the average owner will never see, inside lockers and underneath things, are finished with a smooth, clean surface. The total absence of those fiberglass meat hooks and spots like that is much appreciated by the yard workers, and that goes to say the level of craftsmanship that went into these boats. A spot that you'll never see, and they finish it properly. A number of owners reported some minor blistering over the years, but nothing serious. Underway, the Mason 43 and 44 is a big boat with the displacement to power through all the choppy seas. Naturally, it doesn't have a racer speed or close windedness, particularly due to its fat keel, but owners are generally pleased with their boat's performance. They consistently rate off the wind speed superior to upwind speed and balance as above average. The one area which nearly every owner commented on is stability. Due to its comparatively narrow beam, a low ballast to weight ratio, and large sail area, the boat heels quickly to 15 or 20 degrees to lengthen the waterline, and then it digs in and goes. This appears to be more true on the 43 than the 44, which has that additional ballast. Both the 43 and 44 are aft cockpit tri-cabin designs. As can be seen in the plans for this boat, there's a V-berth or offset double berth forward, a U-shaped dinette and galley in the middle, and a nav station, and a private aft stateroom, partially extended underneath the cockpit. The companionway is offset to starboard on the 43 and is positioned several feet forward of the cabin bulkhead, an unusual feature that means added distance from the cockpit to the safety of the cabin, a movement that some owners feel is less than ideal when sailing on a port tack in a blow. An additional problem was the difficulty in constructing a full dodger for this. Of course, a partial dodger over the companionway is possible, but this does little to protect the crew in the cockpit. In response to those complaints about the 43, the companionway on this 44 was moved aft, and the cockpit seating lowered to provide higher backrests. The latter change eliminated the single quarter berth. As we know, Taiwan builders are noted for their joinery work, their woodwork inside, sometimes performed to ridiculous excess, carving Chinese dragons and poppy flowers. And as designer Bob Perry is fond of observing, the building of drawers inside drawers, Bob talks about that. Happily, the Masons show considerable restraint. Their interiors are in fact exquisite, as we'd expect. Then owners report very few problems, only a handful of gripes concerning the interior. These include leaky teak hatches, several highly recommend the Lumar hatches instead, absence of a good sail locker on the 43 despite its voluminous stowage areas, marginal icebox insulation, these are older boats, and the settee was too narrow for maximum comfort. No positive latches for securing cabin sole panels in the event of a knockdown, and difficulty accessing the tanks for cleaning. The engine, usually a Perkins 4108 or the newer models got a Yanmar, is located under the cabin sole. Owners of both of those engines report high levels of satisfaction with performance, though some feel the Perkins was one size too small. Sound insulation is excellent. One owner said, "I can hardly hear it while it's running." While the location places its weight low in the hull and presents no problems building furniture around it, several owners did note that a surprise flooding or high water event in the bilge would immerse the engine. An automatic float switch for the bilge pump is now standard on the boats. One owner recommends the added measure of an alarm. Sounds like good advice. Another noted that the engine is difficult to access, especially at the forward end where the belts and the alternator and the refrigerator compressor are. Because of the enormous sump, the designers say it's not a worry, you can get around it, and the location allows a horizontal propeller shaft that's perfectly horizontal for greater efficiency under power. Fuel tanks are painted steel and water tanks are stainless on this boat. The owner of a 1988 Mason 44 said her freshwater capacity of 205 gallons is more than enough, more than he's ever needed. The manifold for 5 tanks is a work of art in itself. Fuel capacity on the 44 is 160 gallons, giving meaningful ranges of around 400 miles, even in the worst conditions and head seas. The owner of an 84 model echoed the sentiments of many when he wrote, "My earliest experiences sailing the boat were frustrating as I found we had to reef beating in 15 to 16 knots of wind. I thought I brought a very tender boat. It took me a while to realize that the enormous mainsail, such a boon for light air breezes, made me crazy when the wind increased. It heeled over too much, but that's by design. When the first reef is in, the rail comes up and the boat goes like a shot. Once I understood the trade-off between light air performance and the first reef, I grew to appreciate the design decision leading to that larger mainsail. In heavy weather, both models are exceptionally sea-kindly. The owner of an 85 model recounted spending the night 60 miles offshore in the remnants of a hurricane with 35 knot sustained winds and much higher gusts. Wave heights averaged 15 feet. He said, "We made progress upwind at 4 to 5 knots under double reefed main and staysail until I was too tired to stay on watch. I hove to for 8 hours. The motion was comfortable enough to sleep, and not once did I feel unsafe. The boat needed zero attention, staying perfectly balanced." For powering, owners recommend a feathering prop such as a max prop, which one of the owners said improved handling a lot and gave him an extra half knot of speed under sail. Several owners noted sluggish response at the helm at slow speeds when docking and things like that. Mason 43 owners have mixed feelings about the changes that were made on the 44. Some appreciate the 44's additional ballast and conventional companionway. Others feel that the 44 is somewhat less attractive with a less sophisticated interior finish. Mason 44 owners retaliate, saying that their cockpits are much better than the 43's, which suffer from a lack of ergonomics, especially backrests that are too low and uncomfortable. Almost all owners emphasize that their complaints are for the most part minor, and that as a whole they adore their boats. The Mason 44 is probably the prettiest boat that I've ever seen, wrote one owner. She has sweet lines capped by a perfect sheer. Her finish is outstanding, and her below decks woodwork rival that of Hinkley or Little Harbor. Not one person regretted purchasing their boat, and many see their Mason 44 as the last boat they'll ever own. It's their forever boat. With a few exceptions, owners feel PAE is a conscientious company that addresses its customers' concerns quickly and with care. The Mason 43 and 44 are heavily built cruising boats with fairly complex systems. Most problems are associated with the accessories, not the basic structure or the rig. She's sea-kindly, balances well, and is good in light air, though the large mainsail needs to be reefed early when the wind pipes up, but makes it higher performing in light air. The boat East Coast Yacht Sales has, the one we've been looking at, is listed for $145,000, which is kinda steep for a little bit older boat without a sugar scoop, but it can and already has crossed oceans safely and comfortably, and she's totally gorgeous, so there's that. What do you guys think? If you could get this for, say, $120,000, is she worth it? Let me know in the comments. The mission here at Lady K Sailing has always been to get more people sailing more easily, and I certainly couldn't do it without you. A big shout out to the people who make that possible as patrons. For as little as a couple of bucks an episode, please consider helping with the mission and becoming a patron. Until next time, friends, keep the heavy side down, but not too far down. We'll see you